All right, let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, heading deeper into the offseason, a lot of question marks remained really around this entire team, but primarily on offense and, of course, the quarterback position. What direction are the Steelers going to go? Obviously, Fields and Russell Wilson are free agents. How are they going to address that? Are they going to go draft? Are they going to go trade? Are they going to sign another free agent? And we've got an exciting update that kind of gives a little insight, especially when you look at the numbers that points the Steelers in a really specific direction. Before we get into that, I'm Nick. This is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, a lot of stuff to talk about in this complex dynamic here with the Steelers quarterback situation. Let's jump right into the report first, courtesy of Jeremy Fowler, one of arguably the best reporter out of ESPN when it talks about boots on the ground and great resources. He's better than anybody, honestly, in my opinion. Rappaport, Pelissero, Fowler is the best. Let's see what he had to say here. According to this is from Penn Live, who put this together. All the signs seem to be pointing toward the Pittsburgh Steelers pursuing a reunion with quarterback Justin Fields over bringing back veteran Russell Wilson. Okay, Fields over Wilson. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler came out of the week of the Super Bowl believing the team is more than comfortable in getting Fields back as their starter. That's interesting. My sense coming out of New Orleans is that the door is open for a potential deal between the Steelers and free agent Justin Fields, but would have to make sense for Fields, who at this stage will most likely want a more legitimate chance to start a full season. I've seen a bunch of ex-Steelers players here in New Orleans, many of whom are well-versed in Steelers happenings. They told me that some of the people in Pittsburgh's buildings prefer Fields over Russell Wilson, who is also free agent, as the starter, Fowler wrote. This is certainly an interesting development. I personally thought Fields could come in as a backup, a bridge guy, and maybe they draft a quarterback. Maybe they still do that, but it certainly seems, based on this reporting, that Justin Fields may be the long-term starter for the Steelers going forward. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Steelers fans, in the comment section below, what do you want the Steelers to do at the quarterback position? Are you a Fields guy? Are you a Wilson guy? Are you go out and get a rookie guy? Are you go sign a free agent this guy? If so, who? Let us know your thoughts on what you want or hope the Steelers do at the quarterback position this offseason. Let us know in the comment section. But Miles, what do you think is going on with this latest update involving the Steelers?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a really interesting situation, and we've seen it kind of like get boiled down and divided a bunch of different ways this entire offseason. It's gone one way, it's gone the other, it's gone one way, it's back. I think we're at the point now that Fields makes the most sense because when you break it down, I think you probably get Fields for the best deal of the two because he's like an unknown guy. He's unproven. Probably sign him to a little bit better contract than you would a guy like Russell Wilson. But I also think Justin Fields, he has the most potential. Russell Wilson, you 100% know the top end of what you're going to get from him. He's older. He's not as dynamic as he once was. He's a guy that he can win some games, but is he your future? Definitely not. He's not the future. He's a stopgap. He'll be with the franchise for 2, maybe 3 years at most if he gets plays for that long. I think Russell Wilson, you're capped. You know exactly what you're getting. With Fields, you don't exactly know what you're getting, and that's not a bad thing. I think when you look at Justin Fields, there's a lot of room for improvement in his passing game. He's obviously an extremely dynamic runner of the football. It's interesting to have that aspect at the quarterback position as well. So I think Fields, it really does make a whole lot of sense when you think about it because he brings a lot to the table. There's a lot of room for improvement. He can get better. He can grow with the team as they surround him with pieces. We've seen Pittsburgh name being, thrown out there. Maybe they get some wide receivers. Cooper Kupp is out now. Deebo Samuel has been able to get requested for a trade. Somebody they've been interested in before. I think building a team around Fields makes a whole lot more sense than getting Russell Wilson, bring him in. He's only going to be there a couple of years. He's definitely not the future of this team. So I think all of this makes sense for the Steelers, and I really like that they are leaning in this direction.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about Russell Wilson. You know what you get. You know the best thing that's going to happen with Russell Wilson as your starter. We already saw it. You make the playoffs and fall behind 28-0 and basically get embarrassed in the wild card round of the playoff game. That's what you get with Russell Wilson. Not taking anything away from Wilson, that's just the reality. So you need something a little more high variance, and Fields definitely gives you that variance because his physical upside is off the charts. And here's where it gets really interesting for the Steelers. If you look at the two core of really good teams in the NFL, and if we look at the Super Bowl performance this season and really the past season, you can see there's two ways to win and get to Super Bowls. One, you have a top 2, top 3 first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs, right? Look, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you have the number one overall pick. That's a lot harder to get right as the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They went about what, 50 years between Super Bowls. Steelers fans, I mean, you basically had Bradshaw, Roethlisberger. Obviously you got some Cordell Stewart mixed in there earlier, but like there's been a lot of meh for the better part of 60 years of the franchise who hit it out of the park twice, right? It's a lot harder to hit it out of the park consistently. But if you look at what the Eagles did and really the 49ers the year prior, they got a capable quarterback on a cheap deal and built the team around him. And that is the other strategy you can pursue. And I think that's what the Steelers are doing here. That's why I think this is a really smart decision by the Pittsburgh Steelers if they go this route. I also don't hate drafting a developmental quarterback in like the third round, second round either, just in case Fields doesn't work out long term. Because if you look at the Steelers, they actually, their cap situation is pretty solid. If they sign Justin Fields to a cheap deal, let's say $5 million against the cap. He was $3 million last year, so that's not unreasonable. They would have $35 million in cap space to play with, and they have the least amount of dead money among any team in the NFL. What does that mean? Dead money is dollars that count against your salary cap for players who are no longer on your team. So if you had a player, you sign him to a long-term deal, $50 million guaranteed, and you cut him after 2 seasons, you'd have $30 million dead cap hit, those 3 remaining seasons of that $50 million guaranteed that would count against you, even though he's gone. So the Steelers have a lot of flexibility here. Their cap isn't tied to players who aren't there, so they can get a really good evaluation of the roster as it currently sits, and they have cap space to go out and make moves and potentially use draft capital and other assets to go out through trades as well. So basically, the Steelers are incredibly flexible right now. And let's give Omar Khan some credit. He hasn't been perfect, but he put the Steelers in a solid position right here. I think if they bring in Justin Fields and treat him the way the 49ers treated Brock Purdy and the way the Eagles treated Jalen Hurts, I think that gives them an opportunity to build a roster around Fields. We're talking elite O-line, and we got some guys. Frazier's a beast. McCormick's a beast. Fatanu, I think, is going to be good too. Let's bring in some better wide receivers. Kupp's available. Deebo Samuel, right? Build a super roster on the offensive side of the ball around Justin Fields, and you can go to Super Bowls. We've seen it with the Eagles. We've seen it with the 49ers. Heck, we've seen good teams with like the Lions with Jared Goff. A lot of people thought Jared Goff was left for dead, and he was basically a bust. They get a super team around him, and suddenly Jared Goff looks great. If you follow that mold, the 49er mold, the Detroit Lions mold, the Philadelphia Eagles mold, it's not easy, but it's doable. You can win and be an elite contender with an average to above average quarterback with really good tools. That's what Fields can be. If the Steelers follow this path, and I think they are based on this reporting, I think they could set themselves up very well. It's going to take a few years. It's going to take a little time to work it all out, but this would be a really smart strategy for the Steelers to take.